windows. And down there we have the retractable screens and awnings plus hurricane protection. Let's talk more about those gutters, and to do that we bring in Kevin. He's the owner, he's the expert. Why Gutter Helmet?
Well, Gutter Helmet is truly the only maintenance-free product. It lets the trash and debris go on the ground, the water wraps around and goes inside. Unlike filters, they sit on top of the gutters, and the trash and debris build up on top of filters, which requires maintenance. With Gutter Helmet, we're going to keep you off the ladder, the most dangerous thing in your garage. With Gutter Helmet, you'll never clean your gutters again. So get off the ladder and put on the helmet. Gutter Helmet.
Get a free estimate at gutterhelmetofnorthflorida.com. You can also call 904-762-7779 or visit the showroom on St. John's Bluff Road in Jacksonville.
Empower a future, inspire a dream. It's a bold but simple mission for the Jacksonville Police Athletic League known as Jax PAL. Help the next generation of kids in Jacksonville shape a brighter future. Their after-school programs, teenage leadership programs. There's community outreach.
This has been just an awesome opportunity to be out here with my colleagues and do something good for the community. It's really been an interesting opportunity to just see everybody work together in a way that we don't normally in the office.
And there's sports. There are also ways you can help the next generation with a donation of any kind. Just visit jaxpal.org to get more information. Empower a future, inspire a dream with Jax PAL.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can get a free Connecticut reverse osmosis system with a purchase of a Connecticut Premier Softener. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
On tonight's Club 904, yes, folks, it is real. The Jacksonville Jaguars have already eclipsed last year's win total. They have their 5th win under their belt, a thriller on Halloween weekend. Final score, Jaguars 30, Raiders 29 in the first overtime game since, this one surprised me because I blocked it completely from my mind, last year's season finale against Indianapolis. No one remembers that one. Something tells me we will remember this one a little bit more. We're going to run through this game. We're going to hear from you, the fans of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Leave a comment, leave a question. Let's have some fun in the club tonight, winners. Boy, oh boy, plenty of you already making your way into a post-game edition of Club 904. I am your host, Mia O'Brien. If you are watching us live, syndicated on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 channel, leave a comment, leave a question, leave a Duval, whatever it is that float your fancy on this fine Sunday evening. And if you are listening to us on demand, either wherever you get your podcast or at the Action Sports Jax YouTube channel, subscribe to our friends at Action Sports Jax, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube or any of their social channels as well. Please, we want to promote those social channels. Come on now. And also, of course, you can catch all episodes of Club 904 on demand. We are rocking some homage. I almost said homage. We are paying homage to homage tonight. It is the eve of college basketball as well, but a Northeast Florida team not just picking up a win on the hardwood on Monday night in Las Vegas. The Jacksonville Jaguars picked up a dub on the gridiron in Las Vegas as well, paying a little homage to the ASUN Conference too. Bunch of you guys already leaving comments, questions. We are going to get to all of them. You know what? Let's hit a couple of them right off the top. You guys are so engaged right now, going crazy. Let's do it. I love this one from Caleb. How does that bleeping feel? Yes, I have a feeling that Liam Cohen's post-game address probably started something like that. Robert, I agree with you. Cam Little most definitely will be winning Special Teams Player of the Week after hitting an NFL record 68-yard field goal. He is back in a big way. He's going to be one of our three big takeaways on the positive side from tonight. And I did not see that he was already drug tested after the game, but I can tell you this without saying too much and getting the NFL and the Jaguars in trouble. A lot of players getting drug tested pretty frequently, and I don't know why. But whenever you have a really good game, that's just it's kind of the way things go in the National Football League. Who else is hanging out live in the club? Keeter, the Jaguars are a MASH unit. MASH, that's MASH unit. Should we make a trade? And if so, where should our focus be? Keeter, we're going to hit that. We're going to hit what the Jaguars did right from this game, what they did wrong, what this means for next week's game against Houston. CJ Stroud in concussion protocol. A bunch of the Houston Texans are banged up. Going to dive into all of that throughout the course of tonight's program, but it is an interactive program. Over 400 of you already hanging out with us. We've only been live for 7 minutes. We appreciate you guys. Leave a comment, leave a question wherever you are hanging out. Maybe say where you're listening to from. We like to know where you guys are listening from. Let's get it popping, beginning with our 3 positive takeaways. Then we'll get to the 3 negative takeaways after our first time out on tonight's program. So first, for me, biggest takeaway besides Cam Little, which we'll get to him here in just a second, the run game for the Jaguars came back in a massive way. 42 total carries on the ground. If you want to just say running back carries, okay, that's a total of 32, including a season high 22 for Travis Etienne. That's for 151 yards total on the ground, 123 of them courtesy of the running backs. That's tied for second on the season for the Jaguars, that 151 total rushing yards, with the San Francisco victory in week 4, trailing only the week 1 season opener against the Carolina Panthers, the only game in which the Jaguars have eclipsed 200 yards, and they hit it right on the nose in that dub over the Panthers. Thought that bringing Cole Van Lanen in as an eligible tackle, as the pseudo second tight end, was necessitated by the injury to Hunter Long, but they were already bringing in that extra offensive lineman. It's something that I know so many in Jacksonville have been clamoring for the last few years, knowing you have someone in Travis Etienne who, while yes, it's that sideline to sideline speed that many were enamored with during the pre-draft process. And certainly the previous regime really relied on that zone scheme, left to right, agile quickness, but he can hit the hole too. And so I think bringing in an additional offensive lineman, trying to be varied in your schemes when it comes to your run game, running a little gap, running a little duo, trying to also push the pocket from the interior. By the pocket, I don't mean the pocket. I mean, push the offensive line, push the actual operation from the interior, as well as trying to get to the perimeter. That is something that I think Liam Cohen has done a really nice job on, in his own words, when he hasn't abandoned the run or when the Jaguars haven't found themselves playing from behind. They were behind tonight, but that didn't stop them from still leaning into the run game. And I thought that there were still moments where he probably could have leaned into it a little bit more. And I'm sure he's going to say that when he addresses the media on Monday. But I really thought the Jaguars run game did a nice job. I saw plenty of you guys in the comments and on Twitter saying you thought Travis Etienne was the best player on the field, not named Max Crosby or Brock Bowers. And I would agree with you. I thought for the Jaguars, he was undoubtedly their best player, especially on that offensive side of the ball. Just 1 sack allowed. I'm sorry. Speaking of Max Crosby, he's so good. And I'm not even like, Mark Schlereth was like slobbering all over for him on the television broadcast, but truly Max Crosby is in that tier of those guys in the National Football League, independent of position, who is truly a game wrecker. And it doesn't matter how much you key in on him, he is going to find a way to get his. Even some of those swim moves from the interior when he would line up and just jump the A gap, like, the dude's unreal. And so the fact that the Jaguars held him to 1 sack, the Raiders collective to just 1 sack, and then those 2 quarterback hits, it's a win for the offensive line. I'm sure there's at least going to be somebody in the comments complaining to me about Walker Little. I mean, he held Max Crosby. You didn't hear his name called once outside of that one Max Crosby sack. So I'd say that's a pretty good day at the office, going up against one of the perennial elite pass rushers in the National Football League. And so great day at the office for the offensive line and for the Jaguars run game, which was paramount. Again, if that is to be their identity, not having Trevor Lawrence throw the ball 47 times like he has each of the last 2 weeks, I thought that today was a great step in that direction. Positive takeaway number 2 has to be Cam Little. There was, and I don't believe this, according to Next Gen Stats, a 4.3% chance that he would make that 68-yard field goal given the altitude of Allegiant Stadium and the conditions indoors. I don't really know if I agree with that, but what I can tell you is that his coach had steadfast belief in him. And of any comment that was made at the podium following the Jaguars' 30-29 overtime victory tonight, this one with Cam Little kind of says it all, both in terms of the steadfast belief of Liam Cohen and this coaching staff in him, but also where this team, where this organization is headed. Let's take a listen.
Never lost faith in you. How much does that make you felt your staff support through some rough times?
No, 100%. I think I was just talking to Bucky about it, and this organization from top to bottom, from front office to coaching staff to players, has instilled so much confidence in me through adversity that I've, for the first time really in my career that I faced. And so I think when I really sit back and think about it and, they let me know how much confidence they have in me, it's forever indebted to this place. And they know how hard I work. They know how much this means to me. And for them to go out there when I'm obviously not performing my best and stand on the table for me is something I'll forever be indebted to this organization too. But I think that kind of talks about what kind of culture we have here. I think you look at this win specifically today and you think about everyone coming together as a whole and doing this and not doing this when maybe plays didn't go our way. I think that just speaks about the culture that from front office to coaching staff to players is building. Like, you see us and we go out there and win that game. And at the end of the day, a win is a win. And so, man, I'm so proud to be in this organization and be a part of something where the culture and having each other's back means something. And it's such a cool thing to be a part of.
Liam Cohen said it when he became the Jaguars head coach. There are 2 rules as a member of the Jaguars. Number 1, be on time. Number 2, protect the team. Having your back, what Cam Little alluded to there, that's protecting the team. And I thought Liam Cohen did an incredible job in answering the questions over the last few weeks. And I would say this, by the way, if the Jaguars lost too, when it came to his steadfast belief in his kicker, when the rest of the world was saying bring in competition, he said he's 22 years old. He hit a 70-yard field goal over the summer. He had never missed an extra point in his life from high school to college to the pros until last game. It's going to be okay. It's going to get figured out. And certainly, if only in a 1-game sample size, Cam Little was perfect in his return post-bye week, post a little R&R. And that brings me to my 3rd positive takeaway. We're going to get to those negative takeaways. What do we still have to clean up for the Jaguars after our first time out? Liam Cohen does not flinch. I found it kind of funny. James Gladstone's opening comments about when there's a moment to be bold, we will be bold. We will not flinch. Now you got that floating around as the script in a couple different local commercials. I really appreciate that they've kind of hijacked that, because I do think that as the bold city of the South, sometimes Jacksonville is not a very bold city, not just the football operation, but many aspects and infrastructure and organizations here in town locally, but certainly the football team at times over the last 8 years that I've covered the team. And the fact that they were 3 of 3 on 4th down, 9 of 16 on 3rd down, that's a 56% clip. And we'll talk about the Raiders of it all. And you could say, well, it was against the Raiders, yada, yada, yada. 56% success rate on 3rd down. They have a 36% success rate on the season on 3rd down. The best mark in the league, the Chargers, is hovering around 44%. And so for the Jaguars to be as eager to lay it all out on the line as they have. Certainly Chris Myers and Schlereth talked about it on the television broadcast. They were on the call in that season opener in which on his first drive as a head coach in the National Football League, Liam Cohen made the decision to go for it deep in his own territory on 4th down. And that sort of steadfast belief in his team, his operation, not flinching, has really carried over. And you've seen it so far in the early goings of his tenure as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, which brings us to today. Final score, Jaguars 30, Raiders 29 in OT. Man, oh man, they may be the ugliest 5-3 win, or excuse me, let me rephrase. Make that sound a little bit nicer than what my dad texted me. They may not be the prettiest 5-3 team that we've seen in the National Football League this year, and maybe even the National Football League's history, but they have gotten to the 5-win plateau. They are 2 games behind the Indianapolis Colts in the AFC South standing. Let's just rattle through it, folks. Why not? Thank you to our friend Clayton Freeman of the Florida Times-Union. This game, let's just rattle through this, then we're going to get to those standings. This game today, the NFL's longest ever regular season field goal, courtesy of Cam Little, a 68-yarder. A 2-point try denied in overtime thanks to Devon Hamilton's pass breakup that ultimately sealed the Jaguars' 5th victory of the season. Yes, Trayvon Walker was ejected for punching and missed most of the second half. 44 combined points in the 4th quarter in overtime after just 9 combined points, in the first half. 12 receptions, 127 yards, and 3 touchdowns for one player, that being tight end Brock Bowers, remains a thorn in the side of Jaguars fans in the operation in Duval County. Unless, of course, you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, then I think you kind of were okay with his performance because the Jags still got the win if you're also a Jags fan. As I mentioned, in the standings, the Jaguars now just 2 games behind the Colts, who still hold the mark for the number 1 seed if the season were to end today in the AFC. They are now tied, though, for the best record in the conference with the New England Patriots at 7-2, as well as the Denver Broncos at 7-2, who picked up a big win over the Houston Texans, also at the buzzer, albeit in regulation. The Pittsburgh Steelers, if the season were to end today, would win the AFC North, even if ESPN bets as that the Baltimore Ravens have the best odds. File that one away for later. Pittsburgh 5-3 and got the best of Indianapolis Sunday afternoon. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs, and in handing the Chiefs their 4th loss, the Bills 6-2 would be the first wild card, followed by the Chargers with the next wild card at 6-3, second place in the AFC West. And there they are, not in the hunt if the season were to end today. We'll see what happens over the next 9 weeks. Your Jacksonville Jaguars would be the 7th seed if the season were to end today, and they would travel to, oh boy, Gillette Stadium to face the upstart New England Patriots with their 5-3 record. Kansas City on the outside looking in. Something tells me that that's not going to hold for long. Not the Jaguars part of it, just the Chiefs part of it. But you guys in the comments can certainly chime in. One more from our friends online, our friend Gus Logue, who joins this podcast from time to time with our top 5 Jaguars in PFF grading, just hot off the press. Anton Harrison, the highest graded Jaguar according to PFF. And I know not all of you subscribe to PFF. Thank you, Doug Peterson. Anton with a 78.5 rating. Parker Washington, 76.7 rating, followed by Emmanuel Ogbah, Monteric Buster Brown, who, of course, without his interception, don't know if this game goes to overtime. Don't think the Jaguars are in the position they were to win the football game. And Devon Hamilton rounds out the top 5. I do want to give some love to Parker Washington, leading receiver in this game, 8 catches for 90 yards, including a long of 22. And that was on how many targets? 9 targets. Yes, it was just that one drop. So one drop still. Jaguars only had 2 technical drops. It was the Hunter Long and then the Parker Washington. So, hey, at least, and I know there was a couple De'Ami Brown ones that maybe were a little bit questionable as well, but an improvement there. And certainly Brian Thomas Jr., no drops today, although he did leave this game with an ankle injury. We are going to address that on the other side. We're going to talk the 3 not so great takeaways from the Jaguars' 30-29 overtime victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, if you just joined us here in Club 904 post-game edition, leave a comment, leave a question. I'll get to a couple of those off the top before we get to more takeaways right after this, coming up on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 channel. This is a post-game edition of Club 904. We'll be right back.
Welcome inside the Armor Guard exterior and gutter helmet showroom. There's a lot going on, like glass exteriors, replacement windows, and down there we have the retractable screens and awnings, plus hurricane protection. Let's talk more about those gutters. And to do that, we bring in Kevin. He's the owner, he's the expert. Why Gutter Helmet?
Well, Gutter Helmet is truly the only maintenance-free product. It lets the trash and debris go on the ground. The water wraps around and goes inside. Unlike filters, they sit on top of the gutters, and the trash and debris build up on top of filters, which requires maintenance. With Gutter Helmet, we're going to keep you off the ladder, the most dangerous thing in your garage. With Gutter Helmet, you'll never clean your gutters again. So get off the ladder and put on the helmet. Gutter Helmet.
Get a free estimate at gutterhelmetofnorthflorida.com. You can also call 904-762-7779 or visit the showroom on St. John's Bluff Road in Jacksonville.
Empower a future, inspire a dream. It's a bold but simple mission for the Jacksonville Police Athletic League known as Jax PAL. Help the next generation of kids in Jacksonville shape a brighter future. Their after-school programs, teenage leadership programs. There's community outreach.
It's been just an awesome opportunity to be out here with my colleagues and do something good for the community. It's really been an interesting opportunity to just see everybody work together in a way that we don't normally in the office.
And there's sports. There are also ways you can help the next generation with a donation of any kind. Just visit jaxpal.org to get more information. Empower a future, inspire a dream with Jax PAL.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can get a free Connecticut reverse osmosis system with the purchase of a Connecticut Premier softener. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
Sun's out, suits out. That's right, it's summertime in Florida, which means it's time to say goodbye to bulking season and hello to shredding season. But if you're like me, you're having a hard time sculpting and shaping those final pounds. That is until I came and saw my friends over at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Right now, everyone is hopping on the Evolve X train, and the only destination is finding your perfect summer body. The technology uses electrical muscle stimulation and radio frequency energy to cause your muscles to contract, all while heating up those deep layers of your skin and tissue to produce collagen and reduce fat. It's like doing 1,000 sit-ups in 30 minutes. No pain, no needles, just results, right?
That's right.
So leave those winter layers back at the station and come look and feel your best with the team here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Visit them at one of their 2 locations, either over in Ponte Vedra or on the south side.
Welcome back into a post-game edition of Club 904. Appreciate the 800 plus of you hanging out with us here on a Sunday evening following the Jaguars' second win in the Pacific time zone of the 2025 season. Their 5th win overall, Final score in OT, Jaguars 30, Raiders 29. Of course, encourage you guys to leave comments, leave questions. This is an interactive program after all. And even if our friend Brent Martineau is on the plane back with the Jaguars right now, appreciate him hopping in the club as well. He's not going to hop in the physical club. I see him promoting it though. And so make sure you guys get in on the conversation, leave a comment, leave a question. As Dell says, good evening, winners. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to continue to break down this game, but first, I do want to hit some of your questions so far on YouTube in particular, because I think juxtaposing these two together was hilarious. Little Big Man, this win feels like a loss, followed by Duval 23. We are about to go on a roll, about to hit a 5-game winning streak. We are not here for the negatives. We are celebrating the dub. Amen to that. I won't call them negative takeaways then, Duval 23. I will simply say the constructive takeaways. We're going to hit those here in just a second. Apparently, Seattle is pouring it on against Washington, even though Jaden Daniels is starting. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked if you're watching live on video. I tried to tell you guys after the loss of the Seahawks, when everyone was losing their minds, that is as good an operation as there is in the National Football League. They may be one of the few teams left when it's all said and done come time for the postseason. That is a team that won 10 games in their head coach's first season as a head coach last year, despite not making the postseason in a loaded NFC West field last year in Mike McDonald. And so I don't think you should be surprised at what Sam Darnold and company have been able to do. Clint Kubiak, the first 2 weeks of last season when he was in New Orleans as the OC, everyone was crowning him as the next head coach, the next great offensive mind in the National Football League. Well, now he's paired with a wizard of a defensive mind in Mike McDonald, and the weird yin and yang to one of them being extremely extroverted and one being extremely introverted has made for a beautiful marriage. And then you throw Sam Darnold in there, Jackson Smith and Jigba's got a chip on his shoulder. Point is, the Jaguars lost in a one-possession game 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago now. Maybe 4. I can't keep math. Math is hard for me. They lost to a really good Seattle team. They lost to a really good Rams team. Yes, it was an ugly victory today over the Raiders, but it was a win, and it was a win on the road that the Jaguars sorely needed, if only to quell the chaos. And of course, the litany of injuries that we're going to get to here in just a second, and the ongoing concern throughout Jacksonville for what is to come throughout the rest of the 2025 season and beyond. In addition to Seattle, saw a couple of you guys asking about, what was this that I wrote down? I can't read my own handwriting. Oh, flu game. Yes, we've gotten 27 minutes into the program. We've yet to mention that Trevor Lawrence, yes, was vomiting throughout the night and through this morning before getting on the bus in Las Vegas to head to Allegiant Stadium. As Liam Cohen described him in the postgame presser, he was white as a ghost, and he still got the job done to the tune of a nice, cool, calm, collected 23 of 34 for 220 through the air, as well as 2 rushing scores, 24 total rushing yards. That one interception, we'll get to that at the end of the program because, as Duval 23 said, we're focusing on the positive. We're focusing on the good vibes. But we are going to also talk about where this game could have gone awry for your Jacksonville Jaguars. So my 3 constructive takeaways from this game. First and foremost, oh boy, I don't really know what that defense was. I don't know what that defensive performance was, especially in the waning minutes of regulation, in the waning minutes of overtime. I understand you were down multiple starters. I understand Brock Bowers is an absolute freak. And at the same time, when you know the ball's going to 89, when you know that Geno Smith's average depth of target, his ADOT, was 4.3 yards. That's not a misprint, folks. He wasn't throwing it further than 5 yards on average through the air. He was hitting the check down. He was going to the flat. He was looking for 89, or he was looking for number 2 in Ashton Genty. And somehow, some way, the Jaguars were not able to key in on those players. And then, of course, bringing them both down, depending on the situation, was met with mixed results. I do think they did a decent job in shutting down Ashton Genty, the number 6 overall pick in this past April's NFL draft. He was limited to 13 carries for 42 yards. That's a 3.2 yard per average clip. That is about league average. And there was obviously a concerted effort to get him the football. Pete Carroll talked about it this week. Chip Kelly talked about it this week. Heck, we talked about it on this podcast this week. Every Jaguars defensive lineman I spoke with this week said, if we can just stop Genty, that will free up the pass rush. Well, that didn't actually work out too well, as Geno Smith was sacked twice, albeit late in this game. But up until then, he really wasn't pressured all that much, especially in the first half, which brings me back to the defensive performance. So let's rattle through this, folks. Tight ends. So primarily Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer together. 16 catches, 162 yards, 3 touchdowns. When you add running backs, i.e. Genty and Raheem Mostert, into that mix, that's 22 total receptions, 22 catches for 223 yards and 4 touchdowns, because Genty had a receiving touchdown as well. No bueno, especially then when you hear that the wide receivers for the Raiders, 7 catches for 61 yards, 0 touchdowns. And that includes Jacoby Myers, who I know is the apple of many of your eye as we approach the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday. He and his 0% drop rate weren't even going to him. Trey Tucker was a nice little speed, fastball change up across the middle of the field on a couple drag routes. That was it. It was all Bowers. It was all Genty. And the fact that the Jaguars defense could not key in on them, in addition to not getting sufficient pressure on a quarterback who is tied for the lead in the National Football League in interceptions thrown, it's a little concerning. I saw some folks, including our friend of the pod, JP Acosta of CBS Sports, noting that all the simulated pressures that were hitting a few weeks ago didn't time out quite as successfully today. I'm sure there are those of you who believe that if Devin Lloyd was playing in this game, maybe you have a different effect. I thought Ventrell Miller played admirably. I thought both the penalties he was flagged for were jokes, especially the unsportsmanlike conduct. That's called wrapping up and tackling and playing through the whistle. There was no whistle blown. If he just simply lightly, tackles or gently tries to put Bowers down, or Myers, I forget exactly who the receiver was, that receiver gets up and keeps running. And then it's another cause for concern for the overall depth and performance by this defense, as opposed to, hey, great job by Ventrell tackling and wrapping up. And instead, it was a 15-yard penalty that may have changed the trajectory of this game, but ultimately the Jaguars get the win, and so we don't have to focus on it quite as much. So that's number one for me. The defensive operation left a lot to be desired. Then, of course, Trayvon Walker was ejected for fighting. From what Liam Cohen said post-game, Trayvon said he's, Stone Forsythe, the former Florida Gator, started it. Liam said to him, it's disappointing because the second guy is always who's going to get caught. And Trayvon should know better. And I am curious if Trayvon had been able to play the whole game, what we might have seen from him and maybe how this game would have looked different, because he told me in the locker room that they had a full package, a full plate of first and second down already in the wheelhouse for him going into this matchup, not even just based off of situations and the opponents and matching. The plan was that he was going to have a full plate, a full course load, if you may, as opposed to the last few weeks when he had the club hand and he was really only playing 15, 16 snaps just on third down. And so, it'll be interesting to see. It's a win. I think if this was a loss, we may be looking at that ejection in a different light. But I think it will also be interesting to see if there is any disciplinary measures or anything of the ilk. He is one of your better players, but I think it would set a precedent of, hey, you can't do that. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think this team is better when Trayvon Walker is on the field. And I think that in the same vein, Liam Cohen at some point or another is going to have to make an example of somebody, because the Jaguars, albeit I think that 3 of them were complete and utter had 9 penalties again today. And so even if you take out those 3, the questionable roughing the passer by Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, where they fell at Geno Smith's feet, that was not roughing the passer. And then the 2 Ventrell Miller, the questionable DPI in the end zone, and then the unsportsmanlike when he wrapped up and tackled the receiver and then slammed him to the ground, playing through the whistle. Still 6 penalties. Still can't have it, especially those pre-snap penalties coming from one of your starting offensive linemen, and then also from your only tight end at that point who was available in Johnny Mundt. So interested to see how Liam Cohen plays that. But let's keep it going with our constructive takeaways from this game. And of course, leave a comment, leave a question with any takeaways you have from this one. We're going to do our live Q&A, a whole section of it coming up here in just a second. The injuries. Let's rattle through them. I believe it was Robert asking about Ezra Cleveland. The update was that he was eventually ruled out of this game after initially being listed as questionable with an ankle and knee. No word from Liam Cohen on his status. When he exited, Cole Van Lanen came in to play left guard. Chuma Edoga then was the additional eligible tackle in this game as the 6th offensive lineman. I think it's interesting. I know this staff is very high on Cole, but as Cole told us, and we said it on the pod a few weeks ago during the Niners game, hasn't really played guard since high school. Didn't play it at Wisconsin, was only a left tackle at Wisconsin. I know there are those of you who are going to say, but he played guard when he first got to Jacksonville into the league. Trust me when I say, and I don't think Cole would feel bad about me saying this out of turn, Trent Baalke's the only one who viewed him as a guard. Maybe some of the Packers front office people, but no. He hasn't played all that much of guard, but I thought he played admirably in the overtime period after Ezra Cleveland went down. That'll be certainly an injury to monitor, knowing that the Jaguars offensive linemen told us all week long that they really just needed to get healthy. Same with the defensive line. They weren't injured, but they were battered and bruised, and they were banged up. And they felt like they got healthy during the bye. And like many other positions, now they're even more banged up than they were pre-bye. De'Ami Brown left this game and is in the concussion protocol. Be curious to see how that affects the usage of the wide receivers. By the way, we haven't shouted them out yet. We're 35 minutes into the program now. Austin Trammell, 54-yard kickoff return, sets up what proved to be the game-winning score. Tim Jones is back, folks. He had 1 target, 1 catch for 15 yards, but was it a massive catch at that to set up what would be the score in overtime, score in the fourth quarter that then would allow for the Jaguars to go to overtime. And yeah, we won't even go down the road of that defense again. But again, shout out to Austin Trammell. Shout out to Tim Jones. I know there are those of you in the comments and those of you watching this on demand who are rolling your eyes because you don't want to talk about Tim Jones. You don't want Tim Jones on your team. Look, you don't have enough tight ends as is. Like Cole Van Lannon or Chuma Edoga is going to have to line up as eligible at this point, depending on Hunter Long, which he did come back into this game and then had to drop. It would have been a touchdown. So he must have been cleared for the hip and the knee. But point being, you may need Tim Jones out there blocking like he was on that Travis Etienne explosive down the left sideline and late in the game. Like y'all need Tim Jones because Brian Thomas Jr. also left this game with the ankle injury, tried to come back in, then they pulled him back out, I guess because they felt comfortable with the trio of Parker Washington, Austin Trammell, and Tim Jones. Yes, those were the 3 wide receivers the Jaguars were down to. Long did come back in, so at the very least that helped out Johnny Munt, so you at least had 2 healthy tight ends because, of course, Quentin Morris was not available for this game because of an injury he suffered a few weeks ago. He did not make the trip to London. I believe that's a groin injury for Morris, so you didn't have him. Let's get through the other folks that we already knew. The Jaguars were without before they even kicked the ball off. They did not have Travis Hunter, who will miss a minimum of 4 games. Per my reporting, what I'm hearing, as well as some other folks who I trust around the league, it is going to be an injury that probably keeps him out 8 weeks, but there is no long-term damage done to his ACL. It is also not a meniscus injury. That was something that my brain immediately went to when I started talking to people, hearing Liam Cohen speak at the podium on Friday about the injury that Travis Hunter suffered in Thursday's practice. My brain immediately went to, okay, we don't know if it's season ending, but he also may only miss 4 games. Immediately went to meniscus because if it's a partial tear versus a full repair, that affects whether you can play on it, you can't play on it. Should you have surgery? Should you not? You got Chris Myers on the Fox broadcast today saying the MRI came back fuzzy. I heard from a couple people that they needed to continue to evaluate it as the swelling came down. But from most accounts that I have heard from, including some very close to the subject, it's not season ending as of now, unless something dramatic comes up in subsequent MRIs as the swelling continues to recede. He's not going to miss the rest of the season, and it is not significant enough that it will impact him moving beyond 2025. Now, there's always a question of if you bring him back, does he re-injure it? I don't know the extent of that. The point is, did want to make sure you guys knew that. So they were without Travis Hunter. No Devin Lloyd, as he made the trip to Vegas, was on the sidelines, but ultimately held out with that calf strain. And, it's a tricky thing. Any fan of the NBA will tell you, you don't know what a calf strain is going to lead to in terms of other parts of the body, that because you are favoring or not favoring one leg, one foot, one area of the leg, what that creates for another part of the leg, i.e. Tyrese Halliburton popping his Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant, the same in the 2019 NBA Finals, despite having calf strains. Eric Murray was placed on IR for at least 4 weeks on Saturday, in addition to Travis Hunter being placed on IR and missing at least 4 games, and that's with a neck injury. It's something that he battled through the first half of the season. obviously came back up against the Rams, came back from the bye week, still wasn't right. And so the Jaguars have placed him on IR. Jordan Lewis did not have an injury designation going into today's game, but he was banged up, had the non-contact penny on. He then exits to this game 3 snaps in with a shoulder injury. That led to more run for Jarian Jones, who was already expected to get a little bit more run this week and some more dime and nickel packages. So that definitely changed the Jaguars' game plan going into today, because all of a sudden they didn't have one of their preeminent defensive players. Be curious to see what his status is moving forward. See, I told you they're negative, but they're constructive, informative, what this means heading into Houston next week. Takeaways. The final one, yes, maybe this one's a little negative. It was the Raiders. The Jaguars win 30-29 in overtime. It's a gritty win. It shows the culture. It shows coaching. It shows will to win. It's a 2-win team that, let's just say, there's some questionable things going on behind the scenes when it comes to usage of players, play calling. Obviously, it's not an extremely talented roster. Barely 1 year into the Pete Carroll experiment, with him now on a 3-year contract. He's an older veteran coach, the oldest NFL head coach in history, coupled with John Spytek, a young up-and-coming GM, not to mention the Tom Brady ownership of it all. So Las Vegas is far from a completed project. It's not like you eked out a 30-29 overtime win against the Seattle Seahawks, against the Los Angeles Rams. If you do that, maybe you feel different. But I think if you're a Jaguars fan tonight, to the point of Duval 23, you're happy, because a dub's a dub, and it feels good to have that taste of a win after what the Jaguars have gone through the last few weeks. Let's hit a couple of your questions before we take our next break, and then we're going to do all the live Q&A. Final thoughts. Seattle's now up 28-0. Yikes. 4 minutes left in the second. Darnold is 13 of 13, 229, 4 touchdowns. Okay, well, I tried to tell y'all that it's okay. Yes, California Ryan, the flat killed the defense. I don't know. I don't know how it just kept happening. Outside of Brock Bowers is a freak of nature, but at the same time, he's one player and you have 11, and I don't know how you're not keying in on that. But hey, I'll be curious to see what Anthony Campanelli has to say when he meets with the media on Thursday. Chill S5D. T-Law can't throw picks on the goal line. That's a great point. I do want to bring up a stat from our good friend Gus Logue. Of course, you should go check out his work at Duval 22. We'll get him back on this podcast at some point in time. I joined him a couple of weeks ago. You could check that out. He saw all of you online complaining about Trevor Lawrence, the red zone interceptions, yada, yada, yada. Since 2021, Patrick Mahomes has the most red zone interceptions. 13. 12 for Josh Allen. 9 for Dak Prescott and both quarterbacks who you saw in today's game, and Geno Smith and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, obviously the youngest of that group. But hey, Sam Darnold also has 7 interceptions in the red zone since 2021. So, and y'all are singing his praises. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. I do agree, though. The brain farts, as we like to call them around here, got to start minimizing them. I do give Trevor a little bit of grace, because if you do go back and watch his post-game presser that the Jaguars live streamed, if you've ever had a stomach bug, this man is definitely fighting something right now. And it's a credit to him that he gutted it out, and the Jaguars got a win 30-29, thanks in large part to their quarterback, but certainly an even larger part thanks to their will to win, their kicker, and absolutely that run game. If you missed any of tonight's program, of course, you can go back and listen on demand on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Let's take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to hit your questions. I see you in the chat, Clay. I see you in the chat, Del. We're going to get back to you here in just 5 minutes. Let's get our ads in. Let's say hello to our friends from Action Sports Jacks, and we'll be right back here on a post-game edition of Club 904. I better see more comments and questions when we come back right after this.
Armor Guard exterior and gutter helmet showroom, there's a lot going on, like glass exteriors, replacement windows, and down there we have the retractable screens and awnings, plus hurricane protection. Let's talk more about those gutters, and to do that, we bring in Kevin. He's the owner, he's the expert. Why Gutter Helmet?
Well, Gutter Helmet is truly the only maintenance-free product. It lets the trash and debris go on the ground, the water wraps around and goes inside. Unlike filters, they sit on top of the gutters, and the trash and debris build up on top of the filters, which requires maintenance. With Gutter Helmet, we're going to keep you off the ladder, the most dangerous thing in your garage. With Gutter Helmet, you'll never clean your gutters again. So get off the ladder and put on the helmet. Gutter Helmet.
Get a free estimate at gutterhelmetofnorthflorida.com. You can also call 904-762-7779 or visit the showroom on St. John's Bluff Road in Jacksonville.
Empower a future, inspire a dream. It's a bold but simple mission for the Jacksonville Police Athletic League known as Jax PAL. Help the next generation of kids in Jacksonville shape a brighter future. Their after-school programs, teenage leadership programs. There's community outreach.
This has been just an awesome opportunity to be out here with my colleagues and do something good for the community. It's really been an interesting opportunity to just see everybody work together in a way that we don't normally in the office.
And there's sports. There are also ways you can help the next generation with a donation of any kind. Just visit jaxpal.org to get more information. Empower a future, inspire a dream with Jax PAL.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, you can get a free Connecticut reverse osmosis system with the purchase of a Connecticut Premier Softener. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
There's a saying in sports, you can't win them all, but you can win a lot with good folks on your team. Like that one painter, First Coast. It's tough to beat the sun in Florida, so your home fades. It's tough to beat that HOA when they come calling. Beat the sun, beat the HOA with that one painter, First Coast. And it's a good time to do it. Less rain to work around, and painting in mild temperatures is perfect. After all, the paint bonds to the surface so much better. Give that one painter First Coast a call at 904-417-3557 or look them up at first-coast.thatonepainter.com. Fast estimate, guidance on color and HOA requirements, and the highest quality job you'll find anywhere. Be a big winner in your neighborhood with that one painter First Coast on your team.
Sun's out, suits out. That's right, it's summertime in Florida, which means it's time to say goodbye to bulking season and hello to shredding season. But if you're like me, you're having a hard time sculpting and shaping those final pounds. That is until I came and saw my friends over at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Right now, everyone is hopping on the Evolve X train, and the only destination is finding your perfect summer body. The technology uses electrical muscle stimulation and radio frequency energy to cause your muscles to contract, all while heating up those deep layers of your skin and tissue to produce collagen and reduce fat. It's like doing 1,000 sit-ups in 30 minutes. No pain, no needles, just results, right? That's right. So leave those winter layers back at the station and come look and feel your best with the team here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Visit them at one of their 2 locations, either over in Ponte Vedra or on the south side.
Welcome back into a post-game edition of Club 904. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us live on video. If you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe to the Action Sports Jax 24/7 channel. That is where all of our episodes, of course, are housed, and we appreciate being syndicated on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 channel, whether you're watching us on YouTube, X, Twitch, the .com channel, the .2 channel. We, of course, appreciate you supporting Club 904. You also can get my scoops, my weekly reports, plenty of fun stuff over at our Discord channel through the O'Brien NFL Notebook. And of course, if you need that link to join, you can head on over to my Twitter page at Mia O'Brien TV. Click that pin tweet, and then on the second tweet that's in the replies, you will be able to sign up. A current offer, a 7 free day trial still ongoing. And of course, it's just $5 a month for standard scoops, $10 a month for friends of the pod. Let's get to your questions. Let's get to some final quick hits before we get on out of here following a 30-29 overtime victory for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Our friend Dell, of course, loves hanging out in Club 904. Shout out to Dell. The Brock Bowers man beater rub route had a 100% success rate. Felt like it did, not really sure. We're going to check that because I think it may have. Also, our kick coverage has not been good all season. You are not the only one who asked that question, Dell. So let's hit that one first. After I tell you, Brock Bowers, it was 12 catches on 13 targets, and then that one handoff that he had on the I don't know if that was a jet sweep, reverse, whatever we want to call it. Point being, 12 catches on 13 targets tells me that it was close to 100% success rate. So all smiles all around when it comes to defending the tight end, which, by the way, the Jaguars have been better at defending the tight ends than they historically have, outside of the London game against the Los Angeles Rams, in which Sean McVay made it his personal side quest / mission to run a ton of heavy personnel. He talked about it in the offseason before Liam Cohen was hired as the head coach of the Jaguars, that was something he wanted to do more of. Part of why they drafted Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon in the second round of this past April's draft. And they just kind of gave Liam a taste of his own medicine. So I think that that's kind of an outlier, but I do think that it is something to note because once is an anomaly, twice we're now seeing perhaps a trend or a pattern. So agreed on that front. The kick coverage. I was interested in why I did not see Rayon Lane. He wasn't involved, it felt like, in coverage. So I'm not sure if there was intention to kick away from him on whatever side of the field he was in. I know he slipped at least twice that I saw, but certainly having one of, if not the best gunner in the league. Yes, he's a rookie, but statistically speaking, you could make the argument he is there. Not having him involved was interesting. Like I truly don't know the mechanics and the wherewithal of special teams coverage to give you a firm answer on that. But that was like the first thing that popped in my brain was, why am I not seeing Rayon Lane, the first player to get to the return man? Or in the inverse, he's not there as the Jaguars are trying to return a kick. As to that side of things, a couple of you asked about De'Ami Brown. Why did he return kicks? From what I was told, it was stemming from going against the Rams 2 weeks ago, and Josh Carty kicks a knuckleball kick. They wanted to have someone back there with sure hands, i.e. a receiver. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr., not exactly sure hands back at that point, though he had them today against the Raiders prior to his ankle injury. Parker Washington's your punt returner, so he can't be your kick returner too because he's also so involved in the passing game. And then Travis Hunter against the Rams was your number one option, and he's also playing defense, so he was not going to be that person. And so that's where De'Ami Brown was asked the Friday before the Rams game to return kicks. He averaged 30 yards a return. And so you think, all right, let's give him another chance against the Raiders on Sunday. Maybe not as much success, though, for De'Ami Brown. A couple notes before we get to some of you who have trade rumor questions. The 9 penalties, like I said, at least Ryan says in the comments, at least not double digits. Yeah. True. Broke that streak. Yay. I would take those 3 penalties away, the questionable roughing the passer by Trayvon and Josh Hines-Allen, and then the Ventrell Miller PI in the end zone, as well as the unsportsmanlike when he played through the whistle. Take those 3 away. You have 6 penalties. Still not great because you still had a couple of pre-snap penalties. And somehow, some way, the Jaguars 5th in the National Football League in pre-snap penalties. I thought it would be first. Shout out to Josh Hines-Allen. We've yet to mention his name. Tied Tony Bracken's all-time sack record with the Jaguars for a career with 55. I know some folks on the timeline thought, wait, is he over the hump? He is still, according to the Jaguars stats and info, at 55 and will have an opportunity to break Bracken's record and become the leader in Jaguars franchise history in sacks against the Houston Texans next week. Trevor Lawrence, when not pressured, according to PFF in this game, was 20 of 28 for 209 yards. His completion percentage, 67.7, which is right around the league average, if not above it. And it's about 10, 12 percentage points higher than what he has put on record for the season in terms of his completion percentage average. So 67.7% today. We take the Rams game out of it. 64.3% completion percentage against Seattle, 72% against Kansas City, 67.7% against San Francisco. And again, his ADOT, his average depth of target, was not Geno Smith's 4.3. It was closer to 7.6. And so he was pushing the ball down the field. It wasn't like it was, hey, quick little 2-3 yard screen passes after play after play after play, or in the case of Geno Smith, just hitting the flat because the Jaguars couldn't stop it to stop a nosebleed. Progress for 16, in my opinion, outside of yes. And I see a couple of you debating it in the chat. Timmy Devil is not happy with me that I would put Trevor Lawrence and his throws on the goal line in the same conversation as Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen. Timmy, if you missed that, both Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen have more red zone interceptions than Trevor Lawrence since 2021. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that his bonehead plays are better than their bonehead plays. I'm here to tell you that Trevor Lawrence needs to cut down on those bonehead plays because ultimately it is something that probably could have changed the trajectory of this game, and the Jaguars could have put this one away much earlier than having to go through an exhausting overtime period. A couple other questions in the chat here on Club 904 before we get on out of here. Great points made by Robert and Ryan talking about when the run game is cooking, this team generally does well. Robert would like to see Trevor using his legs a little bit more when the opportunity presents itself. I think a big part of this was, and especially now that Marissa Lawrence just posted on Instagram, I know there's a bug going around from my friends who have kids, and evidently Trevor and Marissa got it from Halloween trick-or-treating, I'm guessing, on Friday, because Marissa said she's also been up all day vomiting. So I'm going to give Trevor a pass, and I know you guys don't want Trevor excuses on the internet, but even looking at him post-game after he led the Jaguars to their 5th victory, dude looked like the type of guy who just has been vomiting nonstop for 24 hours with the bug. So we're going to give Trevor a pass on that one, but I do agree. I would like to see him use his legs more as well, especially recognizing, hey, there's nothing out there, but there's a whole lot of green in front of me. Take it. Run with it. Pete, with our update on the Seattle game on Sunday Night Football, looks like Darnold and the Seahawks are blowing out Washington and Rams easily. Those games don't feel so bad knowing those teams are in an elite tier. Only one that sings is Cincy. Couldn't agree more. All right, Clay, over under 1.5 players traded for before the deadline. I would take the under just because that's the message that's being projected from the building. But at the same time, I think this team recognizes its deficiencies. They recognize how banged up they are. I will also tell you that Brenton Strange appears to be ahead of schedule. And so that's where I think you take tight end out of the running for what they could be trading for. And knowing that Travis Hunter's injury, while certainly he will miss extended time, he's not going to have a season-ending situation. Maybe now you say, all right, it's one game and it's one catch for Tim Jones, but if Parker Washington's going to play the way he did today, and if De'Ami Brown isn't in the concussion protocol for too long, and if Brian Thomas Jr.'s ankle is okay, he was able to come back into the game initially after suffering that ankle injury, then maybe you say, all right, maybe I don't need an extra wide receiver. If Jacoby Myers, if you can get him for a 4th, I'd bring him back on the plane with you because that 0% drop rate is mighty appetizing, and it would give you someone besides Parker Washington to go over the middle of the field, play out of the slot. Maybe Parker Washington should have just been playing out of the slot all along. Brenton Strange is healthy. They share those snaps there. It's interesting. The one position I can tell you they are going to try to address is defensive line because as so many of you have commented tonight, they're not getting home with 4. The pressure is not there. You can argue it's because Trayvon Walker isn't healthy. You can argue it's because they're double and triple teaming 41, but it's not working right now. And credit to Devon Hamilton for the play of the game that sealed this one with the PBU on the final play on the 2-point conversion for the Raiders. But ultimately, they know. They know that they have to improve, especially from the interior of that defensive line. Just keep eyes on Miami. That's all I'm going to say. Keep eyes on Miami. All right, who else we got? Did you hear about D'Amico Ryan's comments? Yes. That's probably a good place for us to end. I heard his comments, and I will just say that, when the ball's in your court, maybe you play the game a little bit differently. And I say that, and I wish nothing but the best to CJ Stroud, who has suffered a concussion already that kept him out of 2 games his rookie season. So this is his 2nd concussion in 3 years. We've seen it with Trevor Lawrence. You don't want to be piling up concussion after concussion. And so I'm curious to see if he is able to go next week, as well as Nico Collins. Some of the right side of that offensive line also banged up. Christian Kirk came back. Jalen Noel was basically ruled out of the offense because Christian Kirk's snaps had to take place. So I'm interested to see how Nick Caley and D'Amico Ryans approach the Jaguars as they come off of a 30-29 overtime victory. The Texans now 3-5. Yes, 3-5. And they, of course, are coming off of a loss against the Denver Broncos. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us in Club 904. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel. Brett and Austin will be back on the airwaves on YouTube, X, Twitch, wherever you get your Action Sports Jacks 24/7 channel content at 10 a.m. tomorrow. This episode and all episodes of Club 904 available on demand at the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Until Tuesday, 1 p.m., Dan Griffith's going to hang out with us in Club 904. We'll catch you then.